Okay, now I'm on to what I've kind of was mainly hired to do, which is score layout. And this isn't bad. Well, I mean, there's always more you can do with score layout. You can think about this you can just keep thinking about this and overthink it all the time. Um, what's important, of course, is that you be consistent. What I'd like to do with this score is, first of all, I very easily get two systems to a page. And I'll also, as you can see, I need to adjust the margins, the page margins. They're very weird. And then basically, after I kind of get those set, the overall sizes of things, that's where I kind of just go in bit by bit, or system by system, and decide system distribution. Now, as you can see, somebody already locked a lot of these in place, the previous editor, perhaps. And that, of course, when you start making adjustments and it starts putting in other kinds of changes into it, it gets very messy. And there's some things that I can point out in this score that are worth talking about. First of all, let's see, in no particular order, notice that these things, these text expressions, not expressions, these are text blocks. This is like basically says it's like a dedication, or like where it was written, which is nice to have at the end of a piece. Unfortunately, if you use a page text block, a page assigned text block right there, if you change the number of pages in your score because you changed the staff distribution or whatever, those are not going to appear on the right page anymore. I really wish that Finale could give us some sort of hybrid page and measure attached text blocks, because what I would really love is for I'd really love to be able to say, hey, I want this to appear on the last page of music. It can't do that. Finale doesn't let you do that. It lets you specify clear, like which page it's on, which you actually look at this through edit frame attributes. Finale has some it's pretty flexible in terms of how you can assign its page or its text blocks, but it could use a little bit more flexibility. So basically, my fix to that, and actually I think what might happen if I'm not careful, is if I reduce this music and make it take up way fewer pages, which I'm planning to do, these will still appear on pages, what are they, 13 and 14, which will disappear at some point after I condense the music a bit, and they'll be lost until I get another page 13 and 14 again. This is how Finale tends to think. In fact, it will assign things to certain staves that, like, if you delete the staves, sometimes Finale will remember that there was something attached to a particular staff at a particular measure, and if you add a new staff or add a new measure or something, sometimes that thing, it's usually a smart shape, will just appear, and it's very silly. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make this measure assigned. I'd like to make it page assigned because with page assigned text blocks, you can, with page assigned text blocks, you can tell it where to appear on the page. And I want this to appear on the bottom right of the page on whatever the last page of music is. So instead of that, I'm going to have to make it a text block. I could also make it an expression. And for a long time, I've tried to figure out when should I use an expression versus when should I use a text block. And basically, it comes down to I almost always use expressions. Text blocks are nice for page stuff, but measure assigned expressions, I have not found very many uses for them. Aside from maybe, I use them as sometimes hidden messages to myself, and I hide them. But we'll use a measure assigned text block for the dedication here. And so I'm going to take this and Control A, Control X, and of course that just destroys the text block entirely. And now I'm going to go to text, assign to measure, and I'm going to do this here, and Control V, and as you can see, it's a different color. I have it assigned to being red, and I think that's Finale's default, is that text blocks assigned to a measure are red. Unfortunately, it does not have a handle. It does not tell you where it is attached, and that's unfortunate. But we're also going to go ahead and I should really know the keyboard shortcut for this. I think it's Control right bracket will change the justification, and I think, oh, I forgot what changes the alignment. Oh, it doesn't have one, right? Because it can't be aligned to the page. But I wonder if I could change where the handle is. No. No, it can't. It's really, yeah, that's too bad. For that reason, I might actually go ahead and make an expression. I'm going to do that. I'm going to make an expression. And this is a case where I think a miscellaneous expression is totally fine, because it has no category. It's unique, it's one of a kind. The positioning is going to be to the right. It's going to be to the right bar line. It's going to be under the music, so below staff baseline. I'm going to make it minus like 0.5, another ½ inch. And there it is. That's nice. Unfortunately, text expressions don't allow you to align, does it? I don't think they do. No, it doesn't allow you, a text expression does not allow you to align to the right. I would like these all to be aligned to the right. But, oh well. I'm just not going to think too much about it. This is a thing that the client is probably capable of adjusting if they really want that adjusted. I'm going to actually just do that. And actually, you know what? Here's a hack. If I want a duplicate miscellaneous expression with the same with all the same properties, I can just duplicate it there. And then, easy, Control V, I just copied it and changed it, and there we go. I'm not sure which one of these is right. I'll have to ask the client about that. Anywho, we are really taking our time on this, aren't we? The next thing I wanted to talk about is margins, I think. Margins, this is a very silly margin. Let's look at the ruler. View, show, rulers. And in case you're wondering why suddenly my menus are big, I think there's a weird resolution thing in Finale. Maybe it has to do with the fact that I have two screens open. It's very strange. I've noticed this for years. Yeah, I don't know what that's about. Finale does not handle multiple screens very well. In fact, yet another change I would to the interface of the program I would suggest is to adopt a Sibelius style approach, and you having separate windows in the OS, not windows within the program, but windows in the OS, basically instances of the program, so you can have like one file open on one screen and another file open on another screen. Right now there's not really a good way to do that. I can extend Finale to cover two screens. That's really unwieldy and silly, and I hardly ever do it because it's just not feasible. Okay, so margins. There are two kinds of margins in Finale. There are page margins and system margins. I'm going to do page margins first. And the correct way to do this is not to adjust here. But if you want to adjust the entire piece and make sure that future pages and systems appear correctly, we need to go to Document, Page Format, Score. So this will reflect. This will not change anything currently in the score unless we redefine pages. It will, however, apply when we create new systems or pages, which we're probably not going to do. In any case, I'm going to keep these sort of 0.5 as a ½ inch as kind of a default. I'm going to put 0 distance between staves because later I'm going to use the space systems evenly tool. Right now I just like to have them cramped in there. First staff system margins, these are all kind of fine. Yeah, the page margins are also pretty much okay. I think what happened was the library got imported. This Finale library I created, which has all of these in it. This is more or less what I want, but they didn't get applied to the piece. So and of course here I have 0.75 on the right and 0.75 on the left because I want to make room for binding. You can see here, if you put like a comb binding or something like that on this page in the middle, it would get a little close to the music. It's not, you know, it depends on what you're doing though, because if somebody wants to 3-hole punch it, that might actually cut into the music. So it's nice to have a little bit of white space outside of your binding. So that's why I put the 0.75, 3/4 of an inch there. So basically, after you've done that, well, before we change anything too, the last thing I want to talk about for page layout is staff size, and this is a constant thing that we have to think about. And I think there's lots of disagreement about it. There's lots of historical precedent for various things, but like a big question is staff size. How high, how big do you want your staves to be? Now, as the staves are right now, it's ridiculous. I mean, one system per page is just, I mean, I just opened up my Messiah score, which, you know, any long-time choral nerd is gonna have within arm's reach. And looking at it right here, it's actually smaller than 8.5 by 11. It's actually, no, it is actually exactly 11 inches high. It looks small because a lot of choral scores are actually a little bit bigger. This one doesn't have a huge margin on the inside. I would say it should be a little bit bigger. But they managed to have 3 systems of 4 voices with a reduction on every page that does actually have choral passages in it. So I'm not going to try to cram 3 systems, but they do manage to cram 3 systems of 3 6-staff systems onto each page. And I measured it, and the staff height on all of these is just exactly, I think, 5 millimeters. Staff height is one area where I will not use anything but metric. I'll use Imperial for page layout because we use, here in the United States, we still use 8.5 by 11 paper rather than A4 like the rest of the civilized world. We use 8.5 by 11, and so I tend to think in terms of inches when planning page layout. But for staff height, I just am going to insist on millimeters because fractions of an inch are just dumb for staff height. So, what is the current staff height? Let's see what it is. To find that out, actually, you have to highlight a staff, go to page layout tool, page layout, and I think it's resize staff systems. There it is. This will tell us how big our staff systems currently are, or how big the staff height currently is. And to see centimeters, thankfully, we can do that. This is way bigger than it needs to be. You know, I'm looking here at my Messiah, and my eyes are pretty good, but this strikes me as a pretty standard score. It doesn't seem small to me. Neither the reduction nor the choral music that I would read from, if I were singing this, seem at all small. It's definitely cramped. They really get a lot of music in there, but it doesn't have a lot of markings either. There are very few diminuendos. In fact, I think all of the dynamics in this are editorial. It's Baroque music, and Baroque music, all the dynamics I'm seeing here are bracketed, so it's a little easier with music like this to cram a lot into your page because there's just fewer markings.